Gonna start my recording so I don't forget.
Some sunny day, you know?
I
I don't think it was supposed to be sunny.
know. It was smoke from a big fire. So,
Yeah, well, it's supposed to moisture. Where's the moisture? All in California.
yeah.
Man. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
Okay,
Good. We're just busy.
I bet you are.
All of those, that packet is all the job descriptions from Laura.
Okay.
Laura gets.
I got,
Hey,
I
Ken.
had the copies here. Hey, look who's here. Look what blew in. Wind's not so bad now, but I can tell that flag is.
Yeah.
We forget who we are.
Get a good line of sight on that flag.
How are you?
Good.
Not sure what good this does when I face that column there.
I'm sorry.
I'm not sure what good that does. Okay, just so I know who's here. Oh, gosh,
You remember your name.
I do, kind of. It's been crazy. Had to have a reality check with some of my team leaders. That's our deputy director, our finance director, and our operations manager. We're about $500,000 in the rears from reimbursements from CDOT for our bus staying program. And they told us we had to spend this money, so we did all these things. And we spent 100,000, maybe seen some of the ads on TV and stuff for bus staying. Nikki Hart.
This is the one that goes to the airport.
This is the one that, for us, it originates in Alamosa, originates in Lamar, comes to Pueblo 7 days a week, and that goes to the spring 7 days a week. And there will be a Trinidad eventually, but they, instead of giving it to us, they awarded it to Trinidad city government. And they haven't been able to get it going for a year. So anyhow, and then those big buses, those are German buses, and there's always something wrong with them.
Join you online.
Okay,
If that's okay.
yeah, absolutely.
I brought my copy of my agenda with me.
Lucky you.
See you there in a little bit.
Okay.
Everything good?
It is actually pretty good, yeah. I was just telling, we're in the rears about $500,000 from CDOT. It's like, you know, it's for our bus tank program.
Yes.
And they made us insisted that we increase the days of the bus tank route and spend all this money on advertising. You know, it's like, we're not like some large corporation.
Sure.
$500,000 and not getting reimbursed for like 4 or 5 months. That's,
Loading the check.
yeah, I mean, we're okay, but it's not like it's a strain. And so it's like,
So they've committed to pay. It's just the timing of it.
yeah, and then they've had a change in staff.
Yes.
And so that, leadership from the person who's in charge of rail and highway. Yeah, and then they have several people down below have changed.
Say locally.
And so they're trying to catch up and rebuild. Yeah, statewide, they're having,
Well, the region leadership, which more than retired.
oh, yeah,
And then so they're gonna be director brand new. And
yeah.
there are several other retirements in the change.
Oh, yeah.
And key stakeholders for us.
Well, now especially, yeah. Working with CDOT down here, but ours is strictly with the ones in Denver. Yeah.
I wonder if Terry Hart could help. Okay.
I know, but it kind of puts him in a, I already went to him and so I'm not interested in putting him in that kind of a hot seat. And you know, the more you complain, then you make it more difficult. Slow up the process.
And Ben? Oh.
Are Ben here?
I mean, transit wise, I mean, it's not.
Well, Ben,
program,
how Ben can help is that we tried to get a contract with them to do our maintenance on our buses. And the most recent thing, he said he's got staff that have left and stuff like that. He said turnover. Just didn't have the ability to do it, but they're really, we have to send our buses to way up in northern Colorado to get fixed. So we have to have them towed up there. Those big buses have to be towed up there.
There's
Nobody,
because
yeah,
there's
the
a
CDOT won't allow,
certification.
yeah. The truck place up on the north side, they only do certain things. Yeah, we have a bus been sitting up for over a month, and then we have to use our small vehicles. And those are vehicles that we're supposed to be using for Pueblo County rural transportation, and we're just putting miles on it. And they're not reimbursing us for using those.
These aren't short routes.
No, those are not short routes. I could go to our legislators, I mean,
What's the issue with just folks in towns? It's a certification of some kind?
no, we can use Pueblo Transit, it's just been.
Sure, you got that, but you were talking about, because Ben's not able to help, you gotta tell them to or,
Right.
because there's not even another commercial provider.
No, it's not, they can't work on all the things they need to have done.
That's a certification.
Yeah,
So
So, I mean, there were certain things that we're able to take to the diesel place up on the North Elizabeth and stuff like that, but for some of the things that they require, there had to be somebody that certified.
Okay.
And public transit.
Okay.
So that's kind of, we've been trying to, I mean, for years, we had a contract with city fleet maintenance for our small buses. And then during the pandemic, prior to that, staffing, people left, they couldn't find replacement. And so then we ended up going to the board, but for years and years, we had fleet maintenance took care of all of them. Not the big buses, but our 14 passenger one. And so we would love to be able to take them there again, but we haven't been able. A couple of things are able to do once in a while, but not on a regular basis. And of course, we paid for that service, charge. And they always, even with all the stuff that they take care of, all the vehicles they take care of, we never had a problem through the years. And Ingo was always, Ingo always did a good job. So,
he's getting retired too.
oh yeah, well, you know that.
He's
That
I think
happens.
next month, I think February.
I think, okay,
It's coming up.
yeah, well deserved.
He's been keeping me informed. I mean, that's our whole thing is it's the equipment. It's right there.
I
Keeping that rolling.
know, that's got, well, and then you did have people that retired. It's just like the police force, and not being able to find people in place and stuff like that. Nobody wants those para jobs, what's the deal with that?
Hey, how are you? Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm Tom Corlett.
Tom, Andrew Hayes. Good to meet you.
Tom, welcome home. How are you?
Good to see you. Hey, Kenny.
Okay, all right, yeah. We're gonna try to keep it to 5:15.
You want to sit down? I'm running over to the office. I'm gonna be back on the screen in a second.
I was gonna say, maybe I need to get out of here. Is this somebody else?
Let's stay on the
No.
before you're okay.
We are gonna get out of here at 5:15, guys.
Okay.
I'll be there in just a minute.
All right,
Good to see you.
so Laura's only gonna be able to be here for a little bit. She's going to that meeting they have on the 3rd floor.
Is it gonna sign from Laura here, this stuff, or?
Yeah, Laura's on that, provided all that. There's a zoning meeting up there, I guess, with some affordable housing project that a lot of the citizens are objecting to.
Well, it just gets me.
So they
Not
have,
my neighborhood, huh? You know. The meeting here.
yeah, that's why they had everybody be. They started at 3:30. So that crowd was primarily all upstairs. I don't know what part of town it's in, I just know that that was the issue.
It's kind of funny because everybody complains about homelessness in Manhattan,
Definitely, sir.
and then they put a solution out there, and everybody complains about their solution.
Well, I'll tell you what. That's probably supposed to be in the other meeting because that some of the housing is going in next to other homes, and it's a false story.
So we're all listening to the job description and you can take care of your survey.
Probably needs to.
Facilitate that.
I'm gonna try to
Need some more
There's
discussion.
more discussion and more planning. Because we're putting in a,
4 or 5 basic.
there's already a low income area there. Does that make any sense to expand it?
People that want to be.
Where's this?
West, southwest, just west of Pueblo Boulevard.
Working on titles, but just the
But it's, you know, all of the Domingo homes, I put in one area.
No, that's great.
That's because in terms of use, the top three,
It already,
yeah.
Sure.
that-
And those are gonna be-
That's a start to.
and those are gonna be.
Well, I don't mind that.
a top three.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of,
Doing three stories.
the only reason I'm doing
It's gotta be a
this
dense,
is,
really dense.
you know, that way I'll give the groups some authority along their goals and objectives like we did last
Right.
time. And I'm gonna encourage people that, like Dave, for example, was talking to me about, he says, gee, you know,
Get this stuff to
I'm
whoever.
not an energy expert, I'm not a, you know, solar particular. I said, well, you know, running one of these committees, subcommittees may be perfect for you, because if you feel you can administrate it, if you can facilitate it, that's the most important. And then also, as we ran into, Ken, organization, you know, have those, how you're going to communicate with each other. Because, you know, that's the biggest part, because, you know, we came to a lot of meetings back here, so we didn't get together. So, you know, having somebody who can organize those. I was gonna ask you, Ken, on that, a couple of things. The EERE, what is your understanding of that?
EERE, I'm sorry, is this?
So it's the abbreviation stand for the energy. It's all over that. That Laura's talking about.
Energy efficiency and renewable energy.
Oh,
okay.
efficiency and renewable. Those initials. They're, the only website I saw was those was two. The county uses them and the government. And if she's gonna use that, I would recommend she uses that as described by the US government, so people understand what that term is. And the other thing, Ken, that I think you know more about is it the LEED, LEED?
Here's your man right here for the leads.
Yeah. The LEED, as I understand it, is a certification. Well, she's talking about certifications here. That's on energy, efficiency. And likewise, renewable energy. Isn't that what it?
Yeah, basically, it's leadership in energy and efficient design. So it has a lot to do with landscaping and a very broad approach to energy efficient design. So it includes water, energy of all kinds, gas, and I mean, you would eliminate gas, but electricity and reducing that as much as possible.
And that's what I looked up to, Tom, and I think it's great. What they're in these here, they're talking about for the person that applies for that to have a certification in that, and you're probably aware there's probably dozens of these type of certifications. This could be the best one, but to require somebody to have one before you get, you know, the job, I mean, that's, so I'm glad you're here.
It's a difficult accreditation to get. I can tell you for sure. But you know, to advise clients on implementation of LEED and Energy Star is something I would think. Energy Star isn't hard to do. Laura did that Laura Getz when she was working for the county, but I did most of the LEED work. So LEED is a very specialized certification. There's green globes, there's probably 8 different certifications, but the county has already done and is in the middle of getting certified for LEED for communities. And I assume that LEED for communities would spread throughout the whole community. And if the city could just simply say, okay, we want to be part of LEED for communities. And then you get a special pricing when you do, excuse me for my voice, I have a very big problem. I just got over cancer in my throat. And so my voice, I have avoided all kinds of.
You would.
Yeah.
It
I
did sound like
can
you
hear
were
myself,
doing great.
you know, reverberating. But by doing that, I think it's the shortest shortest way, the shortest distance to get into that sort of a program. And that program is already very well detailed at the county. So it could be a kind of combined city county situation, which I think makes a lot of sense.
Oh, no, and I.
Except for the inability of the city and county to sort of work together.
Well, that's what Ken and I had that discussion a lot. You know,
Yeah.
the county does. We should coordinate with them. We should not necessarily, step into their programs or have them step into ours. Because just getting everyone on the same page. But to attend each other's meetings.
This is as close edging as I think we could come, because it's already a prescribed program. And it would be a fairly simple matter, I think, of the city just saying, yeah, okay, well, I mean, my question for the city is, have you really adopted the comprehensive plan? Because the county comprehensive plan also encompasses the city, but it doesn't really, the city has sort of said, well, we sort of buy into it, but how much do you buy into it? If you buy into the comprehensive plan and for lead for cities and communities, then you're already pretty linked. And you don't have, you're working with a plan, you're not working with personalities. It's not like,
Well, we definitely bring that up. They'll have, Steve's got some.
I'm Tom Corlett, by the way.
Dave Lucas.
Hey, hi, nice to meet you.
But I would definitely bring that up. That's kind of what our group recommended and why we recommend that they hire someone that could help develop that plan. Right now, not a lot, there's a few employees that are on that are dealing with the energy efficiency and renewable stuff, but there's no plan that I know of, unless, do you know, the city have a plan?
I'd like to see about that. The city has some intentions and some principles to uphold. I think the Paris Accord was one.
Yeah, that was when I was president of city council. That's kind of the mission of this. That's how this group came about.
Yeah.
For that.
So there's that, and then there's the comprehensive plan, but the comprehensive plan doesn't have an energy plan in it at all. So there's really no energy plan per se. I would call it a climate plan, because the climate plan would cover everything that really falls into this, even though it reaches into weatherization, it reaches into all kinds of things that try to decarbonize the environment. So sometimes that gets a little touchy, but I think for the most part, it's doing the same thing.
And our group's actually recommended that really more from the beginning of when we started,
We're set, guys. I'm sorry.
that Pueblo could be a leader over not only Colorado, if they develop a good plan.
Melissa, we on?
Yes, Joe, can you hear us?
Hey, Joe.
Hey, Joe, welcome. And there might be a couple other, we know Andrew Hayes is going to join us when he gets back to his office.
And Joe just chatted that he can hear us, but his mic is not working.
Okay, all right. There he is.
Hey, Joe.
Okay, we can see him. His camera's working.
Sign language.
There's
Joe.
Laura.
It's working now, Alyssa.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. We're waiting for Madam Chief of Staff is going to come in here. Oh, here she is.
Ah,
Hi, everyone.
Hey,
Welcome.
Laura.
So Laura.
This is an impressive group of men and Laura.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I want to also, in case you hadn't heard, that Marty Adam has resigned from the group. He just didn't feel like he had the time anymore. And he's been one that's
Oh,
participated
yeah. Marty's
a lot.
really a shame.
Been
That's,
really,
that's sad.
been really
I gotta
consistent.
keep up for Marty.
So I welcome that, anytime he feels like he wants to come back and join us for anything, please do that.
And his expertise.
Yeah. Also, I kind of the last part of the meeting, and I'm going to stick to the time frame. Tom and I had visited, and going to give him a chance to talk a little bit towards the end, and then we're going to talk about for the next meeting, and And you guys were talking a little bit about what Tom and I talked about in terms of what kind of a plan does really Pueblo have in the city primarily, but right now, Laura.
Hi, Laura.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
Going to talk about the job description, and here comes Councilman Atencio too.
Laura, are you gonna go first? We're gonna wait for Councilman Tencio.
So we're going to be talking about coming up with a job description for the hiring an energy coordinator for the city.
Well, I can start with the process.
Sure.
It's pretty easy once you agree on a job description and you make the recommendation to the mayor, because he wanted to start with part-time. And today I was surprised to see, and thank you, Laura, the job description for the full-time program manager, energy management from the county. So this just, Laura must have just seen this today. Laura, is this your old job they're replacing?
It looks very similar with a few changes.
Did we get that?
I got it from Laura today.
No, I don't think it's.
That's
It
right.
is in your packets. It's the
Is
last
it?
one in your stapled packet.
Okay.
Thank you.
And if you're on Zoom, there's a link in the chat.
And I really, looking at it, it's, if I did the math, I think Alyssa and I did the math, and it looks like, they're gonna recommend to bring somebody on in this program management position for the county at about a $91,000 salary. I'm sure that's full-time with benefits. And they're looking at the educational requirements for a bachelor's degree, a degree with energy engineering, environmental science, or related technical experience. They're really looking for someone with 3 years of supervisory experience and also licensing with the lead accredited professional. So I think that they were looking for someone who was probably in an elevated professional position. Then the mayor was interested in starting out with someone in a part-time capacity to see how that worked for the city, working with all of you and taking direction as to priority and serving as a coordinator, but maybe not serving in that professional capacity yet. So we really need to finalize the part-time position that the council approved in the budget. And I believe, the $91,000 salary is about a $40 an hour position. We wrote in the budget a $30 per hour with no benefits. Part-time is 1,330 hours for the city for the year. It isn't required at 20 hours a week. It isn't required to do Monday through Friday. It is part-time. It could be a Saturday event that you go to. It could be a conference you want to send to. It could be coordinating with this position once hired. There's some real flexibility in that part-time. Also, the hiring of it is not, it goes through civil service only with respect to the coordination of the applications. But once it's finished, then I'm hoping that the committee will agree to serve on a hiring panel with me, depending on how many applications we receive. And it's a much faster process than to come on board as a full-time employee.
And a non-supervisor, non-management role.
No one to supervise, no one to manage. Not required lead certification. And I know Laura worked on an initial part-time job description, and I just want to fine tune that with all of you. And then I'll take it from here to put it in the right format and to get it to mayor's approval and get it out.
Great.
Is that,
Sure.
I'm not sure what the county is going to do or how long it will take to bring
We'll
somebody
talk
on
a little
board.
bit later about that, because that was one of the things that Tom and I had a discussion about, and I think everybody has met Tom before. He's well known in the energy community, so but we want to talk about the city and the county interacting together. So go ahead, guys. There's Andrew.
Hi, Andrew Hayes.
Hello, good afternoon. I guess my question would be, is maybe we should, and we've had some discussion on this already, how is the city and the county gonna work together on this, on these energy issues? Is there, how do we work in a symbiotic fashion to where, we're not doing the same thing, we're helping each other?
So, and we're gonna talk about that, and that's an important thing. And I know there's other people that are concerned about that, and now obviously the county's moving forward to hire a pretty high-powered position for the county, and we're just thankful to be able to get somebody that might help coordinate things, so Andrew can do his job. He doesn't have to be here working with us, so I think that's the thing right now, is we need to move forward and try to figure out what's this gonna look like for this individual? And you have these job descriptions. I guess I depend upon the recommendation heavily on Laura, just because of your experience. And we're talking about somebody that doesn't have near the requirements that the county has, certainly half the pay almost, in terms of, so not quite half, but still significant, no benefits and stuff like that. So Laura, I really kind of would appreciate you kind of giving us some insights in terms of what you see as chief of staff, Laura has described in terms of what the mayor's expectations are for that individual. So what do you see as being the important experience requirements to work with the mayor and to work with council and to work with us here?
I think with these kinds of positions, it really comes down to the type of person, often more than even their background. Someone who's engaged, excited to learn, excited to work with a lot of different types of people and parties, can often do really great things in these positions, even if perhaps they don't have an extensive amount of experience in the field. If you can get people with some background in the field, that's great. But my hunch is, especially with a part-time position like this, you're going to be hiring for, more of their soft skills, to be perfectly honest. I think at the end of the day, I put together, let's see, that first page in that binder, were some of the things I was thinking would be important. If they have any experience writing, I think writing skills could be really valuable here. I know the city does have a grant writer, which is fantastic, but where we're at right now is just, there's so much money out there. There's so many opportunities to kind of craft proposals. And I think there's a really big need for communication with the public. So someone, honestly, with writing and communication skills could be especially valuable at this stage in the energy transition and supporting the city. Of course, if you get someone from the engineering side of things, they can obviously bring, a valuable analytical side perspective to the table. And I think with this position, you end up playing to the strengths of the right candidate. So again, depending on their background, you can really have them excel more in the data side of things or on the writing and communication side of things. And I hate to be so wishy-washy about it, because I know that doesn't help when you're trying to do a concrete job description and hire to that description.
So Laura, let me just jump in just because of, I happen to be in the field where we hire a lot of part-time people, and a lot of the part-time people we hire are already retired or semi-retired from some other position. It seems to me this is a job that's designed for somebody that's semi-retired or retired. To find a young person that's going to be looking at doing this as a way to pay the bills and to take care of a family, that's probably not very realistic. So I obviously can't discriminate against young people. We would never do that, just for the record. But it just seems like somebody that might have had a lot of life experience, maybe has an engineering background, but people do retire. Some people do. And don't they, Ken? Tom, don't they retire?
Well, none of you do.
Yeah, so that it really could be kind of attractive, and I don't know. It might be through word of mouth too, that's through our energy community, that maybe there's somebody out there that we might try to invite to encourage them to sign up, to apply for this. That's a possibility, or just through the grapevine. Again, I think it's going to be a little bit difficult finding a younger person right out of college. And I'm not sure the energy would be great. But some of the things you talked about, Lord, somebody that really can interface with all different kinds of groups. And usually somebody that's young hasn't had that much experience. There's always the anomaly individual that does, but usually people who have been out in the community for a while, have that experience, are probably going to be a better fit for those kinds of things, working with all different types of groups. But I just don't want to get our hopes up that we're going to get somebody that's working on their PhD in climate, and that they're going to come and they're going to take this job. I look at it primarily as somebody to coordinate things with this group here. That's what we need, is somebody that can connect with the mayor, connect with the city council, connect with the county commissioners. So kind of being a liaison and somebody, because I see here, we have a group of people that have so much knowledge. It's kind of being able to have someone that we can help coordinate and channel that knowledge to where it needs to go in terms of being able to get the elected officials, because they're ultimately, if we have a plan, if the city has to adopt one, it's going to be them. They're the ones that are going to be doing that. So I think the simpler this job description is, I think it has to talk about energy. I think it has to talk about with some experience with that or interest with that. But that's just my opinion from working with a lot of retired people and versus younger people. Unfortunately today, and I can speak from experience here with the chief of staff, is that sometimes even for a high level positions, people don't even show up for interviews.
We have two absolutely.
Yeah, so, and those were not like $30 an hour positions or part-time positions. So that's just my opinion, but I think we could beat this to death and try to come up with some incredible job description, but we have to be realistic in terms of what we're going to be able to get for what we're able to pay for. And I don't think it's bad to have a part-time position. I think for us, it'd be great. It's just a matter of finding somebody that we feel would be. And I think it's good that you offer maybe several people from this group be part of that interviewing committee.
What I can do though, and then for all of you, is take it from here and put it in the right city format of a job position description. Send it to, or ask Alyssa to send it to all of you, and we should do that quickly. I can do that probably by Tuesday. Monday is the holiday, so if you take by next Friday to look at it and either do the yes or make whatever changes that you'd like to it. By next Friday, we could agree on a part-time job description and take it to get the mayor's approval, which will happen quickly. I'm not even sure Andrew recognized that in the mayor's department budget is where the city council approved a part-time position, because the mayor yet wasn't quite sure where the alignment would be. Likely up when we're going to provide a computer, probably some time to work at home, time to work with all of you, time to do liaison work, maybe go to the state Office of Energy. So that didn't see the need for an office in the mayor's office, really almost working very independently in this position, and yet having some connectivity to public works and to all of you, depending on then the direction you want to go. But you are so creative, and how do we take that creativity to the next level? And I think that's what this individual can do as well.
And again, Tom, excuse me, but Laura, I'm going to depend upon you. You're the one that's amongst us that has some kind of experience in looking at a position. And I think you have a better sense of what it's like working with elected officials and different types of groups that you would work with. And so without having, a job description that's 2 pages long, something that kind of gets right to the point that's relevant to what we've been talking about. Tom, go ahead. You had a question?
Well, I was just wondering about the reporting relationship. The reporting relationship
It's directly to the mayor right now.
directly to the mayor.
Yeah, so, he would have said in a heartbeat, a direct relationship to the director of public works, but our director of public works, that bandwidth is huge. And so, he wanted more of a connection to all of you and to connectivity to him. That could change, certainly, but it directed to a part-time position reporting to the mayor, which really means come through me. I think there's a lot of work to do and some exciting work to do. Not the EV. The EV vehicles are already off and running with particularly with the police department and the acquisition of the electric vehicles and the charging stations. And Andrew and the police department in public works, they have that set to go. So I think that the EV vehicles is not necessarily part of what this individual would be looking to do. Other electrical or renewable energy opportunities, yes. And Andrew probably has his own list of, solar capacity that he could look towards for the city. What could happen at the airport, in the transit department, lots of activity.
Do you see it developing into a full-time job at some point?
I'm really glad that Councilman Atencio is here because I think it's going to be a little bit of time, don't you?
Yeah, I don't see.
And especially with the county doing what they're doing.
I think the liaison relationship with the county is probably what a part-timer could really work toward. This is the county's job description that came out just today.
Yeah.
For a hiring. Oh, you got that? So I think that, with all the priority hires in the city, we feel really fortunate to support this. And I know Councilman Atencio did, but I think you could probably plan on this part-time coordinator position of more than 1 year. I don't think we're going to lose it. The person will have to prove themselves to you as well. I mean, we're going to be looking for, this made a difference in 2023. Please put it back in the budget.
Well, I think what Steve recommended is that we ask Laura if she'd coordinate with you rather than have this discussion here because it's almost an endless list. And then if any of us have any suggestions, we can get with Laura. Like I had one under the education besides the engineering and other ones, usually, from Excel side, from that, having a business degree, because this person will be doing some marketing and writing. And but along with that, also, I'd highly recommend that they have a working knowledge, not necessarily expert, but working knowledge of energy efficiency and maybe a knowledge of alternative energy, maybe not necessarily a working, but somewhat of a knowledge. And that helps during the interviewing too. Because if you could get an engineer here in any field and they might not have a clue about energy efficiency or solar, things like that. And I know that from experience in Excel. We hired brand new electrical engineers to come in and I had to go show them what a transformer was on a pole because they don't have distribution type in. So that's just an example. But I guess I'm recommending that we just allow Laura to speak for our group and coordinate to get this done and
Put together a draft.
Steve's suggestion of
With the
rules.
chief of staff and put together a draft. And I think we have a lot of different examples, but Laura, you kind of set the climate for what we were talking about here. You didn't build it in being a high-powered position that we're going to get some climate genius in here that we're probably just want to look at for somebody who can work with other people, has those kind of skills, maybe has some writing skills. I think the business thing is a good deal. And you've done a job similar, except it was a full-time job. And your background is totally different than what we're going to probably get here. So can we do that just for time's sake?
Yeah, got it.
Well, if Laura agrees.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think very broadly speaking, the words communicating with, liaisoning with, coordinating with,
Right.
different levels of government, different departments. I think that's going to be the bottom line of this position predominantly. And I would leave, if you have to put, degrees in there, I would just put a very wide range of degrees and backgrounds to leave that pretty open, again, for the right person. Knowledge of energy efficiency and energy, is a huge plus. But again, I wouldn't necessarily slap massive requirements on it, again, to try and encourage as many applicants as possible who might be a good fit in the end to apply.
Okay,
All right.
Thank you.
yeah, and Laura, there's,
The person in that position is going to take their direction from this group, right?
Yes.
But it'll work directly with the mayor and council, but it'll be kind of our liaison person with all of you. And kind of be able to do stuff for us. I don't expect them to manage us. I don't expect them to give us, lead us. I expect them to be more of a communicator.
Well, because the charge that this group got was that we come up with an energy plan for
Yeah.
the city. And how are we going to implement that? This person would take our, we would be the leaders and tell him,
Right.
listen, we want you to do a canvas of all the buildings and find out what the energy efficiencies are. Whoever, instead of having poor Andrew doing it, this person would be doing it. How do we go about getting?
Andrew has nothing else better to do.
Yeah, really. We go
Well, let
about
him speak for
getting
himself.
to 100%. This is how we want you to do it. Go out and get it done for us and coordinate with the departments, the mayor. Sure. That's what this person would be doing.
Andrew,
If I can real quick, just. and Laura,
absolutely.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, Laura, again, sorry. If I get what you're talking about, there's an incredible coordination piece to this. And as I look over that 3-page list of potential duties, we are talking about a part-time individual. And you're asking for somebody who you may or may not have a technical background. And so for them to go and do the data collection, that's 12 people's jobs right there. So coordinating some things. I mean, I want realistic expectations when we write this job description up. If they're going to help coordinate and to provide some feedback and interact with departments and divisions of the city that are then responsible for executing things, that makes sense. But to put the expectation out there that this person's going to go out and do data collection, coordination, we've already maxed out this half or part-time position.
No, understood. It's just that we would direct him, the one company that I know, Johnson Controls, contact Johnson Controls. We want them to do a survey of all the buildings like they did way back in the past, and bring that information to us, coordinate that for us. Yeah,
I still see that being, so Public Works being the owner of facilities, right? That would be something that they would work with us to do, and we would end up doing that through our contracting functions. This person, as a part-timer, you're gonna tap them out at coordination. And I mean, just realistic expectations.
And Andrew, only page 1 would be the job duties. The rest of the attachment is just the resources that were pulled to develop the page 1 coordination. So those are actually positions in the energy coordinator was a position with duties and responsibilities. And so was the subsequent sustainable specialist and manager. They were there for this is reference.
those are all good. I looked through those and, my background, I mean, I did that, for Excel and both on the marketing and on the, I did energy audits for commercial buildings and residential. But no, these are all really good and a lot of them can be combined. One thing I mentioned earlier before you got here, some of that jargon like the EERE, that's a government department that the county took on that jargon. But, the energy efficiency, I think is kind of important because of it wraps around a lot of this, but being able to communication is really big. But anyway, a lot of these are just really good, but some you can read them, some of them, 10 of them, you could put just one small statement. But I think we're doing great.
Okay.
So Laura, once again, we're asking you to work for us. And you've been, like there said, you've been a facilitator. You've provided all this information. You've been working with our chief of staff in the city. And so if you could just come back with that 1-page kind of a general job description, just what you described, and then let some of this group have input into it. And then we can get this thing moving and advertise it and then have some of this committee. For some of you that maybe Councilman Atencio, since he represents the city council, could be one of those, but maybe Ken and Edgy, whatever, I don't need to be a part of that. I was involved with the finance director. That was enough for me right there. So anyhow, Laura, is that gonna work?
Yes, and I'll just say that first page of that packet was what I had originally put together for the position, and taking a quick look at it again, I stand by that description. You know, feel free to cut out anything you think is not relevant today, but I think that is an adequate description for this job.
Okay.
At this point.
Okay, all right, thanks. I appreciate it. And I'm gonna turn it over to Edgy now. We had the survey that went out to everybody, talking about kind of how we want to divide and conquer with committee. And I kind of want to wrap that discussion up. Doesn't mean we have to be finished with it. So we have about 10-15 minutes at the very end to kind of talk about where we go for the next meeting. And I want to give Tom at least 5 minutes or so to talk a little bit about some of his concerns at the end. So go ahead, Edgy.
Yeah. Well, what Laura was talking about and how to handle this, I like to do the same thing with these titles. Hopefully everyone had a chance to see Alyssa's summary for the poll that we took. And what I'd like everyone to think of these as definitions rather than titles. Like Laura was talking about, let these subcommittees come up with the exact title that they want to call the name of their committee. For us to sit here and vote on it, on what we're going to call a committee or spend any time talking about that. But what I'm hoping is we'll have volunteers. Like I've mentioned before to a few people, even if you do not have maybe some of the background in energy efficiency or solar or whatever, you still want to take on one of these subcommittees as being the chairperson. Because what they really need at the chair isn't the engineer that knows every single thing about this. They need someone to facilitate this group and help these groups to communicate. And so I want to encourage everyone to take that on. And as we're looking at this, who's actually here or not, we only have half our group on. Is that correct, Steve? Or
Actually, we don't have a full group. We've had a couple, we've lost a couple of people, and people haven't been able to participate. And basically, the respondents, those are primarily all members of this group, and they're probably the ones that are going to be active. So, depending upon how many groups we have, how many times you can divide 11 people into how many groups is going to be the ones that do it. And we might be right back in the same boat we were before. We had too many committees, and we didn't have enough people participating. And we didn't really, and I'm speaking for myself, that didn't get that involved. And so I think we should keep that in mind. As you're the ones that help get this thing going and rolling. And but I think we don't have to do everything. We just need to figure out what we think is most important to start with.
Yeah.
And then we can get into other things.
And like I mentioned, it'd be hard to sign people because, and what was the new person's name? He was here last time and I forgot his name, Alyssa.
Ellen Ward.
Alan. Yeah, because I don't see him on, but he,
It's from the water board, right?
yeah, he seems real knowledgeable, water board background, seems real knowledgeable. So I think maybe for the people that are here, if they have a passion for one of these and want to take on that role of chair for these subcommittees or coordinator for these subcommittees, I think that's wonderful. But like Steve mentioned, I think to define these and for example, on the first one, the city specific energy improvements. And then down below, number 6, you have solar for the city. Well, I was hoping we can combine the city energy improvements with that number 6 and call it, again, call it a definition. We'll let that group define the exact name, or like we did last time, encourage them to also come up with goals and objectives within their group. But so that would be one I would recommend. So the definition of this subcommittee would be city-specific energy and improvements and include, the solar, battery, geothermal, for city buildings. So that would be, is there anyone that's opposed to making that one of the definitions for one of our committees? Okay, let's try the next one. Low energy help and weatherization. As we all know, this is going to become very important since on the federal level, looks like they're going to be giving some money to landlords to be able to help make this happen. Plus, the education of them and the opportunities, like the county has the weatherization program. And I forget, does the city have a weatherization program? Okay. So I think that's, a wonderful thing. And, to do with that. So that kind of stands by itself unless anyone had some suggestions to add to that.
I think 2 and 5 are similar because if you're talking about helping those with low income to weatherize, to know about solar opportunities, that's essentially communication to the public, correct?
Yeah, ironically, I have my arrow to that on my
Yeah.
sheet. The reason I separated it, because what I was going to do is make a communication, blend communications in another one, but I think that word would be perfect to add to that. And so we could put communications after water heaters. Is that what you're recommending? Anybody opposed to that?
When I was doing this, ranking, I thought it didn't make a lot of sense to me, okay? Because a lot of these things are the same, right? So, so I kind of pushed up things that I thought were the most important, right? It took a few iterations. When I first did this, I said, this didn't feel right. So, I think like Alyssa was saying, is that a lot of these things kind of fall under kind of the main topic, right? So, so how do we go about doing this? And I think, your approach is okay.
Yeah, we could try this and to emphasize what Ken's talking about. Within these groups, they might say, well, geez, this really belongs, this belongs in our group and can come to this meeting or one of our meetings, or talk to the other group and say, this really feels like maybe we should take it on because of this, and that reason. And so it gives these groups the flexibility of creating, continue to create, because, tomorrow there may be a new rebate from the government or state that changes this all. So we have to be flexible. This industry is moving faster than even the computer industry did. So within a month or two, there may be different technologies, or there may be a change in the city council, what they want to see. So that's why I said these groups, remember the title's flexible, you could change that. And then also your goals and objection, 2 months in, you could change that. So, because I always thought the same thing like Ken said. Let's just have one subcommittee that incorporates this all. It seems so similar. But if there's no objections, we'll that second one, and Alyssa, I'm hoping you're keeping, are you keeping track of these as we approve them?
So no, I guess not. What do you have approved so far?
The first one, that we're calling it the city's specific energy improvements, and
Okay.
include an energy audit, solar, battery, wind, and geo.
That's all part of the title?
It's the definition.
Is the definition, okay?
And you might make a note somewhere on when we, for our notes, that these are titles and that the groups will be asked to come up with their titles. These are definitions in the
Got it.
groups. Thank you. And the second one, I feel we're ready to finish, but it's the exact same word, low income help with weatherization, solar, heat pumps, furnace, water heater, communications. And that's what you added. Was there any other adds to it?
Edgy, I would propose that number 2, we rename it to just be energy outreach or energy education. And I think we can have low income help with weatherization, tax credits, business opportunity. I think that can all fall within it. And those can be subcategories that group builds out to educate the public about.
Okay, so I'm gonna restate what you just said to make sure. You're saying as a title, you're recommending that group includes a title. So in parentheses after that, Alyssa, what I would do is put Laura recommended that title. But to leave that definition, you don't have any problem with us leaving that definition for them to be able to move forward.
Well, energy outreach is what she specifically titled that, and this would be like what you would do is energy.
Yeah, and I asked Alyssa to put that in parentheses that Laura recommended that.
I think that's okay. It's
Yeah.
called energy outreach. It makes it,
And all those things come under
Yeah,
that.
sure, but all I'm saying is that's one recommendation. Dave may be in charge of that group, or Alan may be in charge of that group. Let them come up with their own titles, unless Laura wants to take that one on and title it right now. And is that what you'd like to do, Laura?
If I took that group, I would keep that name. I think that's,
But are you opposed to what I'm recommending, Laura? Everybody's defending you, and I want to know what you think.
Sure, and I'm happy to take that one on unless anyone else would like to jump in, I can take ownership of that.
That's wonderful. So you could title that second one, what Laura wants to title, and then include what she stated. If you want her to repeat that, or you can.
I got it.
Okay, great. Well, that's perfect. The third one was energy policy. And that one, is such a broad statement. Does anyone want to make a definition for what we should refer to as energy policy?
I would like to invite Tom to have some ideas on policy
Great.
Well,
about climate and stuff like that.
sure. I think it's a little difficult. I'm just a guest, of course, and I wanted to see for a long time how you were working and how things were going. So Laura and everybody, it's good to see you, and it's always good to be back with a group of people again. But my feeling is, if you when I've been looking at this over as an outsider, sort of looking in, and I look at this, I keep thinking that neither the city nor the county has an energy plan per se. You haven't really said, this is what we want. This is what we want for the government. And energy policy would fall into that category. On the other hand, you've made a commitment with the investor-owned utility and some of the other utilities to make to realize a certain level of energy efficiency and renewable energy after a certain year, right? So that has become your default plan, really, as an energy plan. It's not really a climate plan. The climate plan reaches a little bit higher than that and says, how do we decarbonize the community and the county and so forth? The county is starting to look at that with Lead for Cities and Communities. So you kind of have the county in a way in a driver's position a little bit. Now you have a coordinator for that. I would think personally that if you don't have an overriding plan that you can go to and say, well, our plan says this is what we're going to do. Basically, it's a mission. It's partly objectives and so forth that sort of roll out to be kinds of things you want to have happen. You're doing them. It's just that I don't think we're celebrating some of the things we have done, for the kind of things that are done in the city. When I look at the website, the city website says you've got a really nice, sustainable communication system. That's great, but it doesn't reach really far enough into the whole energy policy issue. So energy policy is how do we want our energy to be delivered, and how do we want it? Now that really gets back to how you work with IOU, your industrial, with your investor-owned utility again, and in fact, in some cases in the county, working with San Isabel Electric. So they have a plan. does your plan, does your feelings, your intention match what utilities are doing? And if they're in parallel, then you don't have a problem. There's no dissension. But if you have that, in other words, we still have the highest rates of electricity in the Front Range. Why is that? Is that something you want to improve or not? Is that still an issue? When I look back at the old Energy Commission, we talked about a curve that was going to occur over a period of time into 2030 and so forth. Is that still the case? So that would be policy, would be where do you want to be? How do you see energy delivery happening for the city? And does that relate to what the county is doing? I think the county is going to be, I don't know whether the county is doing more with worrying about what the electricity delivery and the billing is, or whether they're more worried about now just Excel and replacement for
Getting rid of gas.
Comanche Station. So I think policy here has to do again with coordinating with the county, but also engaging with the utilities, because that's where policy is going to have. That gets back to government, it gets back to legislation. I'm a member of the Colorado Renewable Energy Policy Committee, and basically we work on legislation, and that legislation really has to do with what can we do for people, and not so much for buildings, even though that's important. We've done a lot in the last 2 years about buildings, about heat pumps and legislation for improving those kinds of things. So I would latch on to some of those. If the policy would latch on to some of those bills and try to reinforce that within the community. That's not hard to do because the bills are many and not complicated, really. It's just a matter how you roll those out locally.
Will you emphasize what, make this a definition? You just turned that title into a definition, which is great. And what I wrote down what he said, Alyssa, are you still there? Did we lose Alyssa? Oh, there she is. Alyssa, I just want to make sure we're there. What I did, and I think what Tom said is just perfect. Energy policy / plan / delivery. And have that the definition. And I'm going to address a couple things that Tom said to defend that. Like the city, most cities have a master plan. So think of this like a master plan for our energy commission here. For this particular subcommittee, or for what we're looking at for the city, and this subcommittee is going to need to do it. And that's really a great explanation. And I thought that definition may help. The other thing Tom mentioned is being involved with the Public Utilities Commission. But a couple statements for there, like we talked before, if we want Black Hills to do something, or if they're not doing something, we go to the PUC. And, because they're a regulated utility company, they can't treat our city any different than any other city. They can't treat us as a customer, as a city, different than any other customers on that. But as far as working with the public, with Black Hills, we need to still have a working relationship in that. But the new employee, what we talked about, the new employee, part of their responsibility would be to keep up with some of the state, public utility, the county, the federal, as part of their knowledge, so that they can approach us for that, because our committee found it hard to stay involved with all the different nuances.
Yeah, no, I understand. I just want to make something clear, and that is, I think relying heavily on the PUC is not the best idea. I think that what you're saying is true. They will regulate the utility, but they regulate the utility based on what you've told them. The Public Information to Public Utilities Commission is highly important. And people other parts of the state are doing a better job of communicating. The consumer communicating with the Public Utilities Commission. The city and the county both have people that will do that. Mark Davidson does it, I think, probably for the city, some other folks for the county. But that communication, even with those attorneys, really needs to be directed by the community, The Public Utilities Commission listens to as much lobbyists as consumers and really want to hear them. They don't hear from public consumers very much. And I think that would be, to just depend on them wholly is not a good approach. Really, we need to generate interest in a community. That's something this person could do, is be sure that the communication gets through from a citizen point of view.
And we got right in that we really don't have an energy plan for policy.
Yeah.
And when I suggested an energy commission to the mayor, I talked to him about it, and then I mentioned it in one of our meetings early on. We need a plan, our energy plan for the next 50 years.
Mhm.
Where are we going? It doesn't have to be specific to buildings. It just has to be specific to, this is, like you said, what you call a master plan. Kind of in general, this is where, so maybe the mayor misunderstood me, but his charge to us was develop a plan how to get to 100%. And I said it early on, that's only to 2035. What are we gonna do past 2035?
Yeah.
This plan, the police department is already going forward with EVs. The public works is already going forward with their plans and things. So they're beating us to the punch already. What I envisioned this committee to do was to put in the policy or energy policy, energy plan for the city, not necessarily each individual building, but then within one general topic would have been, how do we get 100% renewable for all city facilities? Then I agree that a point person, that if we hire one, could do that. But why and how we do an energy audit is not part of the plan, but kind of the plan would direct the activity to go forward. So I agree with Tom. We really don't have a plan. We just we're going from a subcommittee, these subcommittees that are going to do a specific item,
Make it
but
much easier
we don't know where we're going yet.
much more appropriate for this person you may hire to work within a plan as opposed to, I mean, the reporting relationship could be a little tough anyway. Because the mayor's not going to want to be on a day-to-day basis with somebody trying to coordinate all this stuff. So I think that can be a frustration. So, but if there's a plan and this group was coordinating that with the coordinator, in other words, the coordinator comes back and talks to this group about what's been going on, how he or she is working with one of the other departments. All the other departments are anxious, I'm sure, to see what their charge is for an energy or for energy efficiency and so forth. And that would be a subset of the plan, would be how help them understand what it is they need to do. Because I think right now everybody's kind of struggling and picking up their own direction instead of looking back at a plan. So there has always been a terrific leader in this area, as have been Steve Meraki. So you've got the people to do it, I'm pretty sure. And I'm more than happy, and I'm sure Laura is too, to be able to, and the whole group, I think, could put together a plan over a period of time. Even maybe in 6 months. So you have something that's at least, it'll change as time goes by. But as Larry said, if you're looking out to 2030 or 2050, how do you know what's going to be out there? And things are moving so quickly. It's not like the same old investor-owned utility planning, which is a 20-year cycle. we're now on 5 and 10-year cycles and less. Because things are happening so fast. So there's a lot more to talk about there. But I think from a policy point of view, getting a plan together that just reaches out a little ways and then sort of tries to forecast some of the other stuff.
Yeah.
Because we do know that the state's out at 2050, 20 beyond. So the legislation has already gone out that far. So we need to track where that's going and see where we fit in.
Yeah. And I think both Larry and Tom helped define that category that we're talking about. And the inclusion, if it's all right with both of you, if I make sure I understood correctly, and I agree, and we'll see what everybody else thinks, but call that committee, or the definition for that committee would be energy policy, plan, delivery, and we might include communications with that. We're going to talk about communications again. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add to that, or?
Yeah, I'll read something that was in the chat from Laura. So for energy policy, she proposed a definition of this. 1, internal energy policy made by the city for the city. 2, Black Hills Energy Public Utilities Commission policy, keeping track of Black Hills proposals and rate cases and intervening as needed. And 3, county, state, and sometimes federal policy, tracking relevant policy and supporting or opposing as needed.
Good work, Laura. You know what you're doing.
Laura, that almost seems like a whole nother category. It's the political policy, versus a plan. I think, I hope you agree that to come up with a city plan and to do what you just described, to me, is enormous. I would think this group would have a hard time coming up for a plan for the city and then also do what you described, because we're talking about creating a plan and energy policy, like a policy statement and a plan statement, where yours is talking about the intervening with Black Hills and the Public Utility Co. Did I misunderstand, or what do you think, Laura?
I think a plan, if we want to go after something like that, would eclipse all of these committees. I think a plan should contain whatever's outlined in all 3 of these committees at the end of the day, our strategies, our goals. I think they would all be relevant. So a plan would kind of be the umbrella for everything that we're doing.
Yeah, so I think actually, Angie, what Alyssa read off from Laura, that is kind of the making of our plan. That kind of defines what a plan would look like. And so we need to refine that. We need to get a person hired to work with us. We also, like we did with Ken and Laura and others, we were able to reach out to other communities that already had energy departments set up. They all have plans, I'm sure. We can ask to review some of their plans. There's nothing wrong with taking a look at what other communities are doing, and instead of reinventing the wheel from scratch, even though I think, Laura, you gave a general statement of what a plan might look like, what it would include. I think we already did that. We accomplished.
I think that's fine. If you, because I mentioned that at the beginning, if that sounds like a good subcommittee.
So Laura's in charge of that committee too? So Laura, you better get quiet.
We'll just put her on. No, but unless anyone disagrees, I would say, let's make that our 3rd one. And it sounds like you already have that written down, pretty much, Alyssa, is that correct? And that would be the definition of our 3rd committee. And why we're talking about it, because maybe it'll work out good. Is there anyone present that would like to take that on?
I'm thinking that I might like to take that.
Great. Could you put Ken's name on that one? Great, that's great. Really good.
Let me just kind of what I'm seeing form here, right? We've got a county energy coordinator, we've got a city energy coordinator. We lack this energy policy in our master plan for the Pueblo area.
Mhm.
Maybe we can pull something together that will fill that gap. You know, that's kind of what I'm looking for as a goal for this year in general. And I mean, there's a lot of other things in that activity. Understanding what's going on with Black Hills. If you've seen your Excel gas bill, we may want to look at Excel a little closer too.
Yeah, and we didn't mention Excel, but that's a given. Black Hills and Excel. And San Isabel Electric is also someone we should keep in touch with.
Sure. And Tom mentioned that, Black Hills is one of the more expensive utilities in the Front Range. No, it's the most expensive utility in the state now. Based on the recent CAMU report.
Based on my bill.
It's probably even regional in the United States. It may be up there and some of the higher ones.
I think it's fair to understand though, and I don't work for them. I never have. Larry knows that I was, pushing pretty hard for municipalization, but I think Black Hills has done some good work. We have natural gas, we have very new plants that probably will end up somewhere in a regional transmission authority someplace along the way. I never see that's going to be stranded. But I think what they have tried to do, they could use a little more pushing, frankly, because it's still an IOU. They're still making too much money, in my opinion. But they have tried to integrate renewables quickly, even though we have 440 megawatts of natural gas. They're still trying to integrate as much as possible. The integration of solar is kind of coming down a little bit because we've kind of pushed things away a little bit in terms of creating utility scale solar in Pueblo County. So they really don't have much, really. And there's not much solar on their set. There's a lot of rooftop solar on the system. There's not a lot of utility scale solar, a lot of wind. So there could be more solar. They could do a better job than they are currently, and we could help them do more things better. And I think it's a help. I think it's a matter of working together. I know you can work together with San Isabel Electric, and they have their own set of problems, but I think they're all working towards that. So understanding that they're working towards it, but maybe not fast enough, and we can push that. There's room to negotiate. So knowing that is a really important factor.
Yeah, and we have a member, John is on our, so,
Sure.
Okay, we appreciate that. And Kent's taken that. And the number 4 on this list, energy reduction in city buildings, we kind of incorporated that in number 1 by listing energy audit. And, so I'd like to go by that for a minute and get to.
2 minutes, because we've got to get.
Okay,
So
I think.
well, you only got 1 minute, I get the last one. No, you
I
take
can
your
say
time.
4, 5, and 6 can be rolled into 1, 2, and 3. I think is.
I think you already did that.
Well, the only one we wanted to, I did it. I added communications to that, but this is the communication to the public, which could be marketing too. Because to sell people on, to help themselves through some of these government rebates, both state and everything. I see that marketing end of the communications really important. So that's what I was going to bring. But
Well, I don't want to overload this part-time position, that's looks like it's going to be like about 3 or 4 people needed to do the job, but like maybe this person can do that communication for us, and that way that gives that individual some way to gain credibility in the city, right, with the city council and whatnot. They can communicate what we're trying to do.
yeah, and I agree.
And I think there's a communication component to every one of these things.
But doesn't 4 and 1 go together, and 5 and 2 go together? And you already kind of did that.
Well, I did. The only thing is what he brought up was, the marketing and the communication. And you brought up something else and I just lost it too. There's another part of the of the communication, that's real important.
I'm just thinking, all these things need to have some communication. We need to.
Oh, the training piece of training the public in these things, because we can, yeah, that's what I was thinking of, but under the communication, I would, because we have three, I think four is more appropriate under communication, education. That was one of our last one too, that we all agreed, and actually that group had a hard time getting together, but the education and the marketing, I think would be perfect because it would help that person that gets on with the city. They may already have some of that to pass on to that new part-time person. Here's what we did. Are you in agreement, maybe, Ken, with that fourth one being communication, education, and marketing? The definition of it.
I guess my concern, Ed, is I think if we have three committees, we're going to be doing good having people working on three committees. If we can incorporate what you had started recommending, these in under that, put them under the umbrella of that energy policy. I think that's already been defined, at least a start in the right direction. Laura did that, gave us kind of a blueprint. Tom also brought some suggestions to that. Ken's been willing to kind of chair that. Laura's been willing to chair the communication part. I think some of that could be, and so who's going to do the third one?
Okay, well, I agree. Why don't we do this then and see what you think? I'll listen under those three categories. If you would just list in a note that the communication, training, and marketing as possible for these groups to possibly take on portions of that. And it's just for note purposes. And but I agree. Was everybody else agree with the three that we defined, the three definitions for these groups? And then one, Laura actually put a title on it. So we have one leader, or two leaders. And how about the last one? Because I'm running out of time. The city improvement one.
Who's not here?
Dave's here. You want to take that on and I'll help you with it. We'll work together.
As communication with the city.
No, the first one is the city energy improvements auditing. And then that would include looking into future batteries, solar. And would you take that on and I'll
Yeah, we can. Just one thought that's been bouncing around, and I think it overlaps with some of the other things everybody else is talking about, is actually survey different parts of the city and saying, have you been doing anything to improve your usage? Or do you have ideas of some things that could be done to get this moving forward? Because you want the buy-in to get people to participate. And, that would be a place to start, and we get everybody thinking that way as well.
And I agree. I think after that first definition, if you could put in parentheses to survey the employees and some of the maintenance people, maybe separately, because if they're doing maintenance, they may know that the circuit breaker is always blown over here, or there may be a new furnace, like Andrew and I talked about. There may be a furnace that could be needing. We can get a rebate from Black Hills. We can get a rebate maybe from the state. We can get a rebate from the feds maybe on it and replace it while we have those. But,
And maintenance answers to Andrew.
Yeah. I was going to say, can I answer? Just ask a quick question regarding the structure of the committees themselves. These are standing committees, or are these committees to establish the energy plan for the city?
Well, the way I see it,
We need the plan first.
yeah.
Right. But I mean, we talked about how the plan needs to be structured into three different kind of areas that Laura kind of mentioned, right? And these three kind of align with those three areas.
Yeah.
Right.
But are each of these committees working on sections of what will come together as a plan, or are these going to be standing committees for the purpose of continuing to engage on these topics, or will there be other committees, I guess, in the future? I don't know.
Yeah, you probably missed out. The reason we set up these subcommittees, these would be subcommittees of our commission, And each month they bring back and report to us.
But standing committees, that's my point.
Right, so we
When
can.
does the
help
plan
them.
get put together?
Yeah, so we can.
That's
help
the
them
part we've been
with that.
asking about.
Right, because chances are the plan will come out of the commission. What we do as far as energy improvements will come out of the commission, because we'll come back, they'll come back to us and they'll rely on us to help push it. The same thing with the low income.
So remember, we're talking also about things that may already be in progress with
Right.
the Colorado Energy Office.
Yes.
The term's slipping my mind right now. But anyway, that process of doing the audit and identifying projects. So policy is what we kind of need at this moment to be able to execute a plan. You've got city departments to execute the plan, but we need a plan. So I keep coming back to that piece of we don't have a plan.
Yeah, and we've been
Circle
doing
around.
that. Our commission's been doing that all along. But we haven't formulated because we're going after the low hanging fruit, like, the fire department buildings were coming up, so we.
Right.
try
got
to
that.
encourage that.
Those are covered.
We encourage
Let's go
the
big.
also.
So let me interrupt Eddie again, just for time sake that, and Andrew, I appreciate, I do think I'm right on the same page. Andrew, I think probably the plan is the number one thing we need to come up with. These are all subparts of the plan. And Ken is being willing to take that on. I think we got some kind of a definition of what that would look like. I would say the next most important thing to do is get this person in that position. And we have people that are willing to meet on these, but I think you're absolutely right. This all ties into the overall plan. Those are subsets of the overall plan. And so the priority I would recommend is that we need to put a concentrated effort on the policy plan. And those will all be part of it. Doesn't mean they can't still meet and do stuff, because that individual, once we get them hired, we want to have them be able to coordinate with the county, the elected officials. And also we want to know what, we don't have the resources to provide weatherization, but we can give out information. That's an important part. That can happen at the same time we're developing a plan.
Yeah.
So we still need people to do that committee, how that can be done. And that's where that staff position. And I'm just kind of rambling, but I do think the plan is the most important thing. And Tom, that was one of the things that you really encouraged. And so can we kind of focus
Before we
on that?
leave that, let's just finish this. I was asking Dave if he would take that.
Yeah, he said yes.
Okay, so I don't know if you heard that Dave is going to take that on and I'll help him with that. And then other than that, we're just the implementation of these things, all the ones that took on these, contact the members of our group and recruit members for your own subcommittee. I recommend we each group comes up with a goal, with their goals and their objectives. And other than that, I think I'm done unless someone else thought we had some needs to finish this up. Or we could still talk about next meeting.
Well, we'll follow up for the next, there'll be a time on the agenda to follow up on this and see where we're at. So I would encourage, we'll send out Alyssa to all the members and let them know that these are the three committees, and also emphasize the policy and planning. And but right now what I'd like to do is Ken had an idea for part of the next meeting. You want to share that?
Yeah, I don't know if I can arrange this for the next
Okay.
meeting, but I can try this. Our June. Makahani.
Ours are much higher.
He gave a presentation that I saw, and I was pretty impressed because he's kind of a forward-looking guy. About he really believes that renewables are going to replace our energy needs, and that people raise these issues of storage and all that, and those problems are going to be solved. But more importantly, is that the industry is kind of changing a lot. The demand side management is going to really improve. In other words, as we build our future homes, our appliances are going to be smart, and they're going to know when to shut themselves off so they don't use power. And those kind of things are what need to happen, right? So in our energy planning, we need to kind of look at how we're gonna reduce that energy demand as part of it, because, the future, so when we have one of these climate crises, right, too cold, too hot, that we can kind of mitigate it, right? We don't need to add a ton of, gas or coal or whatever, to be on standby, that we could just, trim our energy needs.
So how long is that presentation? If you're
Well,
able to get it?
I imagine we'd want to listen to him maybe for 15 minutes or so.
Okay, so you'll see if you can get that put together.
Yeah, I don't know if he's free. Okay, he may want to be paid for this, so.
And we can also arrange it at another time. Maybe our members can all agree if he's like, he can't make Wednesday or whenever. Do you think we can? Or could that be possible?
He physically won't, I don't think he'd travel here. It would be a Zoom.
All I mentioned is if he says, well, I can't do Wednesday for 6 months, but I can
We
do
do it some
Monday,
other time.
yeah, next week.
Well, check and see what his needs are. I'm not sure that we have a budget that I'm aware of. I've never seen one that we have to pay for things. But at least reach out and see what you think about.
Yeah. I'll do that.
Okay. And Tom, I want to thank you for coming today. I felt like we were able to incorporate you into the whole thing.
We'll see. I might be able to help Ken.
No, but you were able, I felt like you were able to kind of express some of the things that you were interested in.
Oh, absolutely, sure.
Yeah.
No, it's nice to be back in the world again after health crisis, but
Well, we appreciate
they're
it.
doing a good job here.
So Edgy and Ken, all the committees that agree, we'll get together prior to the next meeting, kind of set up the agenda.
Sure. And I suggest that they recruit if they can and also come up with a title. Because if these groups will work independently, but bring each meeting, we usually have time for them to present where they're at.
And Laura, if you can work with Chief of Staff Solano, and we can kind of keep us posted in terms of getting out what everybody can take a look at for the job description. And I'm going to trust that pretty much whatever you guys come up with is probably what we're going to go with. So we can get that thing rolling as quickly as possible.
I'm thinking that in the past, right, we set up these committees and people kind of, there was some overlap. There were some people working multiple committees. But I think maybe we got to just approach it. Let's invite the whole team, each one of these meetings. And, we'll see how it congeals into a group. There might be.
Well, you might consider that for yours, but maybe Dave don't want to have, 12 people, 13 people, 14 people at every single, they meet at they want meet a coffee or they're gonna, get together some other means. But you did bring up an interesting point is, as you know, I was involved in 2 of these before. The best way it seems to work is text, email. Whenever we tried to meet, even on Zoom, it was really hard, but you can communicate on these communication devices and keep things rolling. You can ask for their input on things and then combine things and reestablish within an hour or 2, rather than wait for your next meeting at the coffee shop or Zoom meeting. And that really seemed to be real successful for the one I had and the one I participated in.
Okay, so within the next week to 2 weeks, the 4 of us will get together. Okay,
When you say the 4 of us.
we got
The committee.
yeah, you did,
Okay.
yeah. And
Okay,
and Laura, if you're available, we can do a Zoom meeting. Maybe we can use this office here. If you're not able to do it or anyone, we could, but we'll try to work with the list to coordinate having a time in here where we can use Zoom if we need to.
Yeah.
And we can kind of plan the next agenda and how we're going to approach this.
you're talking about for the 4 of us.
Yeah.
Too, and for your convenience, Laura, if we can come on and meet at your office. If that's, if everybody else wants to do it. Dave he lives in Pueblo West. But I wanted us to be flexible so it's easy on anybody.
Okay, all right. Listen, is that clear as mud?
Yeah, no, put all that there.
I'll clarify with you, Steve.
And Joe, thank you. Andrew, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
Okay. Good
Have a
start.
nice evening.
Tom, thanks for.
Yeah, it's darker than what it
Councilman
normally
Dancio,
is. It's
thanks
supposed to be
for
getting
coming.
lighter
Yeah,
now.
sorry, I've been missing, but
Hey, nice seeing you, Larry. Good luck with that zoning up